Okay, it's recording. And I'm going to put the Pranami mantra on. There you go. Oh, sorry. Forgot to share the screen. Okay. There you go. So hopefully you can all see it. Would somebody like to lead the invocation prayers?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Parishaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namite Namaste Saraswate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasa Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Panchakalpataru Vaishika Kripa Patitanam Pavanam Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah Prabhupada Namo Namah.
I don't know what's going on. Okay. Oh, sorry. Stop sharing. Okay, that's better. Okay. So once again, Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
And are there any questions from last week? Or was this all totally clear? Hare Krishna, Sonam. Okay, so if no questions, then we'll get started. And so you may recall that we were covering dialogue between Lord Brahma and Narad Muni. And Narad Muni had asked a number of questions, and Lord Brahma was explaining the process of creation of this material world. And we discussed the 3 Purush incarnations. Does anybody remember the names of the 3 Purush incarnations?
First one was
Garbhodakshai, yes?
No, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Shirodakshai,
Yes.
and the first one was
Karnodakshi.
Yes.
Karnavarnodakshai.
Karnodakshai. Yeah, that's very good. Very good. Thank you. So, yeah, and then we also discussed the structure of the universe with these 14 planetary systems. And we discussed how they represent or form the various parts of Lord's body in his imaginary Virat Rupa or universal form. Okay, so, right? Everybody remembers all that? Great. So, we'll now move to the next chapter. This is chapter 6, again, Canto 2. So, here, Brahma is continuing the narration to Narad Muni regarding the whole process of creation. But interestingly, he talks about what his life was like in the beginning. And he said, in the beginning, there were no ingredients for sacrificial performances, except, all he had was the bodily limbs of the Lord, which is in the Virat form. So that's where he took the ingredients from and performed the fire sacrifice to please the Lord. And then he tells Narad Muni, Narad understands something. It is by his will, it's Krishna's will, that I create and Lord Shiva destroys, while the Lord himself as Vishnu maintains everything. And then he says, as a reminder to Narad Muni, he says again, but neither Lord Shiva nor I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Vishnu is. And then he added, although unknown as the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom coming from Krishna, and although I have undergone all austerities, and I am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I'm recognized as such by the great souls who offer me great respect, they offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand the Lord, who is the very source of my birth. Therefore, Narad, I simply surrender to him. This is Brahma speaking. I simply surrender to Krishna. Then in chapter 7, Brahma described the various scheduled incarnations of the Lord. There are 6 types of incarnations, and I'm going to share the screen one more time and show you a slide that will make what I'm saying a little more clear than just me rhyming out the names. So if you can give me a second. Okay, so sorry, yeah. So there are 6 types of incarnations, or 6 kinds if you want to use. Purusha avatar, and we talked about that, and I'll show you a picture again. Guna avatar, we talked about that also last week. We'll talk a little bit about, not much, but very little, because throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, they are explained in more detail. Leela avatar, which is the pastimes, Shaktyavesh avatar, Yuga avatar, and Manvantar avatar. Okay, so these are the 6, and I'll explain them one by one. So let me go to the next slide. So we talked about Purusha avatars last week, and we said Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu. These are the 3 Purusha avatars. So no need to talk more about that. And then we talked about Guna avatars also, qualitative expansions. Lord Brahma for mode of passion, Lord Vishnu for mode of pure goodness, Lord Shiva mode of pure, or not pure, mode of ignorance. So we talked about these 2 already last week. Then Leela avatars. So there are many billions of Leela avatars. Leela means pastimes. There are billions of incarnations of Krishna where it comes and does some pastime. But these are the, you can call them top 10, or I don't know what the definition would be of top, but these are 10 that Jayadev Goswami has included in his very famous book, which is called Geet Govinda. Yes, thank you. So starting from bottom left, is Matsyata, the fish incarnation, tortoise incarnation, Varaha incarnation, Lord Nrsimhadev incarnation, Vamandev, Parashuram, Lord Ram, Lord Balaram, Lord Buddha, and finally Lord Kalki. And Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, who also comes as incarnations. So these are the 10 main Leela avatars, but there are, like I said, billions of them. And then he talked about Manvantar avatar. So what is a Manvantar, by the way? Anybody know? Does anybody know what a Manvantar is?
70, or like, so one Manvantar is like 71.
Okay. So there are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. And these are the names, and these are the names of the incarnations that happen in their time. So in the first Manu is Yajna, second is Vibhu, so on and so forth. And these are the names of the incarnations. You don't need to remember any of this in different Manvantars. And then you have Yugavatars, so like you have 4 yugas, right? What are the 4 yugas? Anybody?
In order, or can we do them out of
It
order?
doesn't matter, any order.
Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali.
Yeah, well, you said it in order too. So yeah. So, for example, Dwapar, Lord Krishna is the Yuga avatar. In Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga avatar. And then you have what we call empowered incarnations. There's two types. One is what we call divine absorption. So Lord Kapil Dev, Lord Rishabh Dev are in that category. And then there are many, many living entities who are empowered by the Lord. So like Sheshnag, he's the serpent on which all the Vishnu forms and Narayan forms are lying on top of. Right? As opposed to Anantadev, who's holding all the universes on his hoods. Then Lord Brahma, who's a qualitative expansion, is also empowered expansion for being able to do cosmic manifestation. Right? And you heard of the Kumaras, Narad Muni, Maharaj Prithu, Parashuram, they're all empowered incarnations. Again, you don't need to remember the names, but just so you know, different types of incarnations that come along. Okay. So I'll stop sharing. And I hope it wasn't too confusing. Any questions before I move forward? Okay, all right, then I'll keep going. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hi, Prithu.
How many total avatars are there?
Oh, billions, trillions maybe.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Yeah, we just talked about a few.
Okay. I thought there is a finite number. So
Oh, no. There's just billions, literally billions. And also different ones are worshipped in different universes, different planets. But they're all there. Okay. Any other questions?
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yeah, Rama Prabhu.
I was hearing like Swayambhu is the first Manvantar. Is that not true?
Yeah. So first Manu, his name is given to be Swayambhu. Swayambhu means no parents. Right? So Brahma produced Swayambhu Manu from his limb. From his right side, he produced Swayambhu Manu, and then from left side, he produced Shatrupa, which became his wife. And that's how the whole thing started.
Oh, okay. So,
Okay.
I list probably Manu's name is there.
No, I did not list Manus. I was listing the Yuga avatars in the Manus. Sorry, Manvantar avatars in each Manu's age. So they were not the names of Manu.
Okay.
They were incarnations. Okay.
Sure.
Anything else?
Thanks.
All right. Okay, so after having described, which are all described in chapter 7, then Brahma moved on to chapter 8, which actually talks about the questions. There were many questions that Maharaj Parikshit asked Shukdev, and in later chapters, Shukdev answers those questions. Chapter 8 is basically questions by Parikshit Maharaj. In chapter 9, Shukdev Goswami answers the first question of Parikshit Maharaj, which was, how does a living entity begin his material life, even though he's neither his body nor mind? So it's all of us. I mean, we started off, we are pure living entity, the soul. But we have started our material life trillions of years ago, even though we're not this body, nor are we this mind. So that was the question. So how does that happen? So then Shukdev Goswami said that when a living entity or spirit soul is influenced by Krishna's external potency called, what is it called? External potency? Maya. So being influenced by Maya, the living entity starts to enjoy in the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And when that happens, it leads to the misconception that he is the body. And that misconception leads him to start thinking in terms of I and mine. So I am this, I am that, and this is mine. That is mine, and all that. So what happens? The karmi. What's a karmi, by the way? What's a
does
karmi?
the
Huh? Sorry.
work? Who does the work for the fruits?
Correct. Yeah, the one who's
Fruity
doing
work.
work. Correct. The one who's doing work, the expectation of result. So a karmi thinks the whole world is mine, and the jnani thinks I am everything. I'm the Lord. I'm Narayan. I'm Bhagwan. I'm everything, and everything is in Narayan also. And this influence of Maya happens when the living entity misuses its independence and develops a desire to be the master and the enjoyer. Instead of remaining in his constitutional position, what's the constitutional position?
Servitor of God.
Huh?
Servitor of God.
Yes. So when we forget our constitutional position of being a servant, or I should say, and to be enjoyed, as opposed to the master and the enjoyer, we really are servant and to be enjoyed. But in misusing our independence, we forget that. And so then what happens is that again, three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. We have discussed this before, especially during the Gita classes, that we can have in varying amounts in a lifetime. And therefore, there are trillions of combinations of you can get how much of goodness, passion, or ignorance. So that results in 8.4 million different forms of species. In Hindi, this is called 8.4 million yonis, but basically means 8.4 million different species. Would you like to have a breakdown on how 8.4 million works in terms of birds, aquatics, etc., etc.? Any interest in knowing that?
What's that?
Sure, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. I just wanted to hear something. So we have 900,000 aquatics, or types, I should say. 900,000 types of aquatics. 1.1 million worms and reptiles. 2 million vegetable bodies. 1 million birds. 3 million beasts. And 400,000 types of humans. Add it up, you get 8.4 million. So that's the breakdown. But a living entity can go through any of those forms. But as soon as the living entity becomes situated back in his constitutional position of being a servant and to be enjoyed, then the misconception of I and mine goes away. And self-realization happens that I am the pure living entity. Okay? So that was the answer he gave, and then he came back to the discussion regarding Brahma. This is Shukdev Goswami. Shukdev now goes back right to the beginning of time. And he says, well, when Brahma opened his eyes and, excuse me, and saw himself sitting on a lotus flower, he's looking here and there, it's all dark. He can't even figure out or even trace out the source of his seat. He's sitting on the lotus flower. And she's thinking about creating the material world, but he doesn't understand, what are the directions? How do I do it? How do I find out the process for creation? I mean, at that time, there were no process documents or how to make babies directions. There were no operating procedures that were available to him. There was nothing there. I'm not sure if he even knew what his end products would look like. Just sitting there thinking, what's going on? What do I do? Where do I go? I was thinking like that. Suddenly he heard 2 syllables.
Oh.
What were they? Tapa. Twice he heard that. Tapa, tapa. What does tapa mean?
Yuck. Up.
Austerity.
Austerities, yes.
Very
So when he heard those two syllables, the sound,
good.
first thing he did was like, imagine sitting in the dark and hear a voice. You'd like to know, well, who's speaking? Where is it? Is that person? So he tried to find the speaker and he searched on all sides. But of course, in that darkness, he couldn't find anybody except himself. So he thought maybe it's wise to sit down on my lotus seat, properly, firmly, and, and undergo the tapa, the penance. So for 1,000 years of demigods, that's $3.6 million on million years on earth of demigods who performed penances. Just like he was instructed by the sound, by the voice, tapa. At the end of it, and at the end of his penance, 3.6 million years or 1,000 years in that world, Supreme Personality of Godhead was very satisfied. And he manifested himself and his personal abode, Vaikuntha. So then Brahma saw the Lord in his Narayan form with 4 hands, and his chest marked the line of Lakshmi ji. What's the line called? Shivatsarekha. And the Lord was sitting on his throne, surrounded by his different energies. And Brahma saw that. He was just overwhelmed with joy. He bowed down to the Lord, and his heart just automatically and immediately got filled with transcendental love. He was feeling so much ecstasy. His eyes were filled with tears of love. And he just stood there. So the Lord accepted him as person worthy of creating different bodies. But even more so than that Brahma was willing to be controlled by the Lord, which is the biggest qualification. He was willing to be controlled by the Lord. He was not trying to be the master. So by being satisfied with Brahma, Lord actually shook hands. This is in Bhagavatam. Shook hands with Brahma, and smiling, he told him how happy he was with his penance. And the Lord offered to give Brahma any benediction that he wants. And he also said, listen, I was the one who ordered you to undergo the penance. The tapa came from me. So then Lord Brahma offered another prayer, and he prayed to be informed, please, my dear Lord, tell me how you assume the mundane forms, even though you're transcendental. And how do you manifest different energies for annihilation, for generation, creation, and maintenance? How do you do all that? And then he said, my dear Lord, you're giving me this huge responsibility, tremendous amount of power. But I beg you to please do not let me become puffed up when I am engaged in the creation of all these different types of bodies. So those were the 2 benedictions that Brahma basically asked for it. So the Lord said, all the knowledge about me is extremely confidential and can only be realized by the process of devotional service and my causeless mercy. So devotional service and my causeless mercy. So remember the Damodar Leela? Everybody remembers Damodar Leela? And one of
Yes,
the biggest
Prabhuji.
parts is, thank you. And one of the biggest parts of that story, that pastime, is that all the ropes that Mother Yashoda used, they were all
Becoming
2
small,
fingertips.
2 fingerless.
So what did those 2 fingers represent?
Our endeavor and Krishna's mercy.
Correct. So this is exactly what's being said here.
That's
This is exactly what Lord is telling Brahma. Your endeavor, which is the process of devotional service, and my causeless mercy. And then he uttered, the Lord uttered, what is commonly known as Chaturshloki of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now I'm going to share the screen again and put the verses up. So Let's see. Okay. So the 4 verses, chapter 9.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Oh, please go ahead. Yes.
So basically, the word, I mean, 2 letters that were, or 2 syllables that were uttered by Lord to Brahma, which is tapa.
Mm-hmm.
So one, so why, I mean, like, why is the language of that syllable is, or how is it to be understood as Sanskrit? And how does Brahma understood that, okay, this syllable means that I have to penance?
Yeah, very good question, Pooh. Excellent. So first of all, Sanskrit is the language of the demigods. Sanskrit is the language that's spoken in the spiritual world also. That's why another term I believe is Devanagari, spoken by the demigods. So that's one thing. Second thing is, you're correct. At that time, even the language did not exist. But when the Lord spoke those 2 syllables, he also gave Brahma the power to understand what it means and what to do. Okay. And basically, he said was just close your eyes and meditate. That's it. That was tapa. So there's no rituals involved, no mantras involved, nothing. It's just sit down, close your eyes, meditate. That's it. But that empowerment came from Krishna as well.
Okay, so this is like without uttering like anything. I mean, just meditate on Lord. I mean, like, how is it?
Yeah, he doesn't even know what the Lord looks like at this time.
Yeah.
Right?
So
he's just meditating, like whatever. Like there's no mantras to utter. There's no form to think of. Like this hard meditation. But that's basically what he's doing, just sitting there meditating. Okay.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Can I add something, Prabhu?
Of course you can.
Sorry, not qualified, but
Oh, please don't say that.
Krishna is sitting in our heart as Paramatma, so he can always guide us.
Yes.
So in this case, in Lord Brahma's heart, Krishna is already sitting.
Yes.
And that's given the power or understanding.
Correct. And that's correct. Absolutely right. And that's basically what I was saying, that Krishna empowered him to understand what it means and what to do.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. That's a very good point. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Brahma was already pure, right? Because he came out of Vishnu and he was already pure.
Just 1 second, Prabhu. Can anybody mute yourself, please? Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the question came to my mind is, what was the need, like, Krishna wanted Brahma to do tapas when he was already pure, like he came with a pure mind. So what was the need of that? He would have given the energy to energy for the creation, right?
So can you imagine the task he was about to give Brahma? This is what we were just saying a few minutes ago, that he wanted to see if he's qualified. And he said that yes, because you performed this penance so wonderfully, and because you have to be willing to be controlled by me, you're qualified. So those are the 2 tests he gave.
Okay.
Right?
So if Brahma would have failed, then there would have been some other alternative.
Correct. That's correct. Then they would have started all over again.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, how you become Brahma. So Brahma is like a post. So, I mean, a person is already very qualified to get that post. So, I don't think it has ever happened in our history that Brahma came and said, oh, you fail, let's find another one. So that doesn't happen. So basically, I'm just going to tell you anyway. Basically, when a person like you and me performs no sinful actions for 100 births, 100 human births. Then they become qualified to make the short list of the people who can become Brahma. So you can imagine how hard that is. And let me tell you how hard it is. Sometimes there is no one qualified. Then Krishna becomes Brahma.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's very highly unlikely that there will be Brahma who is not qualified. But Krishna tests anyway. Okay?
But is this all, Prabhuji, before Brahma started creating
Yes.
life?
Yes.
all
That's
this
correct.
is
This
going
all happened
before
before.
that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is when he was the only one.
Mm-hmm. And then he started writing all the counts, karmas, and created lives.
No. So we'll talk about that later on. But Brahma does not create life. He creates
Okay.
bodies. And then the spirit soul enters the body.
Only bodies.
Yeah, he
Oh,
only creates
okay.
bodies. He cannot do anything else. He
Oh,
can't
but they
even.
say like Brahma Rata, it's all written here. So, like
No,
whatever you do, good or bad, he has the list of. No, it's not
that has
that,
nothing to do with
Prabhuji?
Brahma. That has nothing to do with Brahma.
Oh, okay.
According to what's written, you get a body. So that much he is involved in. But he's not writing it. He's reading it.
Okay.
It's a read-only memory.
Okay.
He reads it, okay, you should be a dog.
Okay, right.
He reads it, he says, oh, you should be a
Okay.
cow. He reads it, you should be human. And that's how it goes.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, okay.
Good questions, though. Okay, so now, who's talking now? I keep saying Lord, but which Lord is this? Anybody can guess? At the bottom of the lotus flower, who's the Lord?
Garbhodaya
Vishnu.
Excellent. Yes, Garbhodaya Vishnu. Absolute. Correct. So it's he speaking, right? And these 4 verses, as I was saying, are popularly known as Chatur Shloki. Chatur means 4. Shlok means verses. So 4 verses.
Yep.
Okay. Now, also, this is the sum of entire Srimad Bhagavatam. In 4 verses, the Lord has said entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So basically, other 17,996 verses of Bhagavatam, they're just explaining these 4 verses.
Oh.
Okay, so that's how important these are, and that's why I wanted to put them on the screen so you can.
Okay.
And I requested you to read this chapter anyway, especially these 4 verses, and I hope some of you, at least, if not all of you, have had a chance to read this. So I'm going to ask somebody to read one at a time. I'll do some little bit of explanation, then we'll move on. Who would like to read the first one? 33.
Can I, Prabhuji?
Anybody can. Yes, go ahead.
Prem Mataji, go ahead. Go ahead, Mataji. Next I will read.
Just Madhu Mataji, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brahma. It is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, that remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead.
Thank you. So what's happening here? He's saying that before the creation started, there was nothing. Remember the last week's discussion where we said Mahavishnu or Karunaksha Vishnu? That's how it starts.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right? And from his glance, the living entities go into material nature, from his pores, the universes come out. Right? That's the beginning. So he's saying, yeah, so before it all happened, it was just me. Now he started all this. Okay, so everything you see is me. And when there's annihilation, nothing left, it will be just me who's left. Right? So that is basically the most of the discussion that we had last week. Okay, and then we have talked in the past also about how he glances and all those kind of things happen. Okay, who would like to read the next one, 34?
I'll go ahead, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness.
Thank you. So now he's saying that everything is connected to me. Anything that's not connected to me is Maya, is illusion. So therefore, when you perform your services, make sure everything is in relation to me. And when you see something, make sure it's in relation to me. So you see a sky, you see mountains, you see oceans, buildings, plants, they're all connected to me. And they all should remind you of me. Whenever anybody thinks it's not connected to Krishna, then simply Maya, an illusion. Just like, and that person in illusion is like in the shadows where it's dark. Like shadow is always dark, right? So it's like in shadows. It appears in the darkness. Okay, 35.
I'll read.
Please do.
Just Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time, I am outside of everything.
Thank you. So remember the circle diagram that we had, the universe, and we had the layers, false ego, mind, intelligence,
Water, air.
Exactly, yeah,
Yep.
all those layers.
Yep.
So they are the layers to form the universe. But what's our body consisted of? Our body, what does it consist of? Earth, water, air,
Gross material like water, air.
all those things, right?
All,
Yeah,
yeah, all the
24
five.
Intelligence, false ego, everything.
24
So he's saying they are outside and they are also inside the body. Right? So they enter and they don't enter. That's what he's saying. He's just like me. I'm everywhere inside, I'm also outside. I'm in the creation, but I'm not in the creation.
Yeah.
Because I'm not involved. So I'm inside and also I'm outside. I'm inside every atom, but I'm also outside. So that's and we'll discuss this point so many times in the different pastimes and different chapters and cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, 36.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Please do, yes.
A person who is searching after the supreme absolutely truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to the Bhakti Yoga, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly.
Thank you. So what he's saying is that if you want to find me, you cannot depend upon Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or any other yoga. The only way you can get me is by Bhakti Yoga.
Bhakti Yoga.
That's the only way. So you can go to the ladder, yoga ladder that we talked about
Yep, in the
last
beginning
life,
of Gita. Yep.
right? But sooner or later you have to come to the Bhakti Yoga before you can understand me. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that only through the process of devotional service can you get to know me. You cannot get to know me through any experiments, which is empirical processes, through any kind of concoctions, any kind of speculations, any kind of fruitive effort. You just cannot know me. And then only to the degree I decide to reveal myself. So nobody knows him completely. Lord Shiva doesn't know him completely. Lord Brahma doesn't know him completely. Nobody knows him completely. People know a little bit to the degree that he decides to reveal himself to that particular personality. Otherwise, you don't know anything. Okay? And he says that's true always. It was true in the past, it will be true in the future, it's true today. Therefore, that's the only way. Okay? So, okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, what happened? Okay. All right. So, any questions on this before I move on?
Yes, Prabhu. I
Please
have
go ahead.
one.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Prabhu, you mentioned like how Brahma has to take like 100 births and how if somebody lives uh, life without sins, and in 100 years the person becomes eligible to be a Brahma.
No, Prabhu, let me correct you. So it's not that Brahma appears so many times. Any human being like yourself, myself, anybody on this call, if they do not commit any sinful acts in their next 100 births, human births, then they become eligible for the post of Brahma. They get shortlisted. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So Prabhu, so on the other side, you were also saying like Lord Shiva also, they don't get to know the full reality of Bhakti Yoga. So like
No, of Lord. Full reality of the Lord.
Full reality of the Lord. But aren't they performing devotional service, both Brahma and Lord Shiva? So I'm just trying to understand that my context is like me as a person, like we are so like I'm so impure, like I don't know like if there is any chance, like if Lord Brahma and Shiva don't get Krishna, what is the scope of somebody like me?
Yeah.
Just trying to understand the
Yeah.
context.
So that's a very valid point and very, very concerned. Krishna says, nobody can know me fully. Nobody. No exceptions. So, but we can know him to the degree of proportional to the degree of our devotional service, the purity of your service. And so, yeah, he does reveal, but not all of it. He says, even I don't know the limit of the glories of my qualities. So if Krishna doesn't know, how will I know? How will you know? How anybody will know? It's so unlimited. Is that confusing?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, I got that. I'm trying to say like we as devotees, we aspire to either go back to Godhead or serve um, uh, serve Krishna in whatever way possible. So like, is that goal too difficult for somebody like us to like me to achieve, given like we have committed so many sins, given I don't know what is it, like chance, the probability if somebody like Brahma.
But let me tell you what Prabhupada said. He said, anybody who's chanting is guaranteed to go back to Godhead. Guaranteed, like 100%. I just don't know when. So how long, how many births it would take you, it depends upon how intense your desire is, how much effort you make, the endeavor to purify yourself, how many offenses you avoid, and so many things. You go through the 9 stages, faith, a devotee association, devotional service, then you become firm, you develop taste for it, then you become attached, on and on until you get. So there's stages that we all have to go through. Right now we're in the beginning. So yes, it could be a long time, but does it have to be? Doesn't have to be. Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj didn't have to wait long. Right? I'm just giving examples. You can say, I'm not Prahlad, I'm not Dhruva. Yes, you're right. But my point is, Prabhupada has said that's guaranteed. So I'm taking Prabhupada on his words. I'm going. I just don't know when. It could be million lifetimes, it could be billion lifetimes, it could be 2 lifetimes. I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm going because Prabhupada said so. And you all are going.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. So then we'll move on. So that ends the 9th chapter, by the way. And we move on to the 10th chapter. So I'm going to share a slide again. I think I put it there. Let's see. Share screen. Share.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Of course you can. Yes.
But I'm not sure if my understanding of this point is clear or not. But initially, when you were talking about the benedictions that Lord Brahma had got, you said that he asked that he should not get puffed up.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct, Prabhuji? I'm sorry, I can see you.
Yes. Oh, you can't see me? Why?
Okay.
Okay.
Because
Anyway.
I can see you.
Okay. Anyway.
So
Yeah.
So if that was the benediction given to him, then how did he get carried away later during the Brahma Vimohan
Vimohan.
Leela?
Vimohan Leela.
Yeah, Vimohan Leela.
So remember, we were discussing that, and that a person like Brahma cannot become puffed up. A person like Brahma cannot be bewildered. But when Krishna wants that to happen for whatever reason, causes it to happen. So Krishna wanted to do for a whole bunch of reasons that particular pastime. So he did that.
But then he only gave him the benediction, right? That he won't feel that way.
Right. So like I said, momentarily, he said, no, I need to use you as an instrument of what I want to do. So therefore, you're going to be for a little while, very little time. Now, in terms of Brahma's time, it's not even a half a second.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So 1 year on earth is nothing. Like you blink in that lok and a million years go away. Remember the story of the king who wanted to get his daughter married? He went there and Brahma said, just wait a couple of minutes and that's 2 million years on earth. When he came
Yeah.
back, everything.
I think father of Mother Revati, right?
Correct. That's absolutely right. King Ravat. Okay, so that's just that. It's just that. There's no contradiction. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so then in the 10th chapter, Shukadeva Goswami describes the 10 topics that would be discussed throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first topic is creation, and we have discussed that already. Second is sub-creation, which is the one by Brahma. We've discussed that. Planetary systems, we discussed that. And then we'll discuss protection by the Lord, creative impetus, the 14 manus and how they change and what happens when they change, the science of God, which is Krishna's pastimes, returning home, how do you get back to Godhead, liberation, and the summary of everything, which is basically, what happens when it all ends, then what happens, the pralaya, apocalypse time. So those are the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. What were the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita? Anybody knows? Just by comparison. What were the 5 topics in Bhagavad Gita? Or what are the 5 topics in Bhagavad
Jiv, Iswar, Prakriti, Kal, Karma.
Nature,
Soul, super.
soul, super soul. Yeah.
Yeah, so he said it already in Hindi, but in English, yeah, go ahead. Soul, yes.
Soul, super soul.
Super
yes,
soul.
2.
Prakriti means nature.
Material nature, yes, 3.
Time.
Time 4, and
Karma.
karma. Very good. Yes. So those are the 5 topics in Bhagavad Gita. These are the 10 topics in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhagavad Gita also has Chaturshloki. What are the 4 verses? Anybody knows? Just numbers or whatever. In Bhagavad Gita.
10.8.
I'm sorry?
10.8, 9, 10, 11.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Who said I can't see from here? Who was saying that?
It's me, Prabhu.
Oh, thank you, Ataji. Thank you. Very good. Excellent. Okay. So those are the 10 topics. All right. So that basically brings us to the end of Canto 2. Okay. So now we'll start on. So somebody want to ask questions?
May I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can.
So what are the numbers of the 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita that are so critical?
Chapter 10, verse 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Thank you very much.
They are also known as Chaturshloki, which is the 4 verses. They're main 4 verses. Just like these are the 4 main verses in Bhagavatam, they're the 4 in Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody has any questions? Okay, all right. So, chapter 3, sorry. So, at the end of second canto, I should say, Shaunak Rishi asked about Vidura and his pilgrimage. Remember, we discussed how Vidura had left the house of Dhritarashtra after being insulted by Duryodhan, and he had gone on pilgrimage. So we said that Canto 3 will discuss that in more detail. So at the end of Canto 2, Shaunak Rishi is asking Sutta Goswami, please tell us about Vidura and his pilgrimage. Okay, so we'll start discussion today, and we'll probably go to the next class also to cover those discussions. So Canto 3 starts by repeating what are some of the things that we discussed from Canto 2. And Vidur had been, if you remember correctly, we discussed this thing that Vidura was constantly advising his older brother Dhritarashtra that he should be more fair to the Pandavas, and he should be less blind to the improper behavior of Duryodhan, his son. And he said, especially because Duryodhan is so envious of Krishna. So he actually advised Dhritarashtra to get rid of Duryodhan. Like, just get rid of him, throw him away. And Duryodhan happened to walk in the room exactly at that time. And he became very angry and he insulted Vidura by calling him son of a maid. Actually, he used a different word, which means kept mistress. And Duryodhan ordered him to leave the palace immediately. So Vidura said that this is great. And he left right away for a place of pilgrimage. He left his bow and arrows at the door of the palace and just went. And he went to many places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, Mathura, Prabhas Veda, where the Yadus had fought with each other. And then he came to know about the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. Then he traveled to Western India, I should say, and or in Western India. And finally reached Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, he met Uddhava, the cousin of Lord Krishna. And Uddhava was also a disciple of Brihaspati, the guru of the demigods. Vidura, of course, recognized Uddhava. He embraced him with great love and asked him about the news of the family of Lord Krishna. And he specifically named so many of those family members of Lord Krishna. And he also asked about Yudhishthir and other Pandavas, how they're doing. And then he asked Uddhava to glorify Krishna. So some of this we have covered already in the previous classes. So Shukadeva Goswami described Uddhava was as so absorbed in the service of Krishna that even when he was just 5 years old, he wouldn't have breakfast. He didn't want to have breakfast when his mother would call him, because he just wanted to go and serve Krishna somehow. And even when he grew up, that service attitude did not change. And Krishna appreciated Uddhava so much that when they were living in Dwarka, Krishna used him as his consultant. And he would go to Uddhava for all types of advice. One particular instance that I recall is that when Krishna was requested by the Pandavas to come before the battle of Kurukshetra starts, it's about the same time that Jarasandha was going to attack Dwarka. And Krishna went to him, to Uddhava, and said, hey, what should I do? So this is Krishna asking Uddhava for advice. That's how amazing a person Uddhava was. So Vidura is, of course, asking him all these things. And so when Vidura asked Uddhava, first he was just so absorbed in the remembrance of the Lord that he just couldn't respond. He was constantly just meditating upon the Lord's lotus feet, and his eyes were filled with tears. Finally, after a long pause, he spoke, and he said, the Son of the world Lord Krishna has set. And everything is like swallowed by the great snake of time. So what can I say to you, uncle, about our welfare? So Vidura was an uncle to Krishna and Uddhava. So he's calling him uncle. Then Uddhava started reminiscing about Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. He talked about killing of Putana. He talked about Govardhan Leela. He talked about how he'd go to the pastures to herd the cows and the calves. And he started talking about Mathura, where how he killed Kansa, how he went to Avantipur, to Sandipan Guru's place to learn, and spent 64 days there, and his time in Dwarka, how he married, Rukmini, Satyabhama, etc., how he got the Parijat flower from Indra for Satyabhama, all these pastimes, marrying the 16,100 princesses, killing of Kalevan by Muchukunda, just all these pastimes kept remembering. Even Krishna going to Mathura to kill Dantavakra, etc., etc. And I remember the pastime of Lord Krishna liberating Shishupal, and how he was so humbly dealing with Ugrasen. Krishna would say, "My Lord, please let it be known to you that," like this is how Krishna would speak to Ugrasen, because hey, Ugrasen is the king. So he was just basically glorifying and remembering all the pastimes and the qualities of Krishna. Then Uddhava explained the Lord's one very big concern. And that concern was that my descendants will misuse or could potentially misuse the powers they have. And therefore he arranged to this whole pastime of Samba being cursed by a Brahmin for the Yadus to kill each other. And then he described how he went to Hastinapur to install Yudhishthira as the emperor of the world, how he protected Parikshit Maharaj in the womb of Uttara, how he induced Yudhishthira Maharaj to perform the horse sacrifices, the Rajsuya Yagyas, and then he talked about how Krishna lived as a householder with 16,108 wives. A lot of these pastimes we've talked about before, so I'm not going to the details, just mentioning them because Uddhava was, remembering all this. And then, sadly, Uddhava started to narrate the pastime of the Lord, of his departure from this planet. With tears in his eyes, Uddhava said, on that day, Lord Krishna went to the bank of river Saraswati. He sipped some water and sat down underneath a banyan tree, and he put his right lotus feet on his left thigh. So if you can visualize Krishna half lying down with his back against the tree, one left foot bent and the right foot on top of the left thigh. So you can see the right lotus foot from a distance. And Krishna was looking very cheerful. And Uddhava says, and the Lord, foreseeing the destruction of his dynasty and his own departure of this particular day, Uddhava says, he told me, he instructed me to go to Badrikashram. But Uddhava said, I couldn't bear the separation from him, so I stayed with him. And he said, just then Maitreya Rishi showed up at that place. So the three of us sat down and he started discussing. And the Lord told Uddhava that, Uddhava, you have been awarded the ultimate favor of my association. And that after this birth, you will go to Vaikuntha. So then Uddhava requested the Lord, please explain to me the knowledge about yourself that you had earlier given to Brahmaji. So of course the Lord obliged and gave him that knowledge. And after that, the Lord left the planet and Uddhava traveled to Vrindavan. Very much aggrieved because of the separation from the Lord. And he told Vidura that Uddhava is on his way to Badrikashram. And why Badrikashram? Badrika Ashram, I should say, because the lords of Nara and Narayan are still performing their tapasya, their penances in Badrikashram. So that's why I'm going there. So Vidura said, before you go, please explain to me the knowledge that you gained from Krishna. And Uddhava very politely directed Vidura to Maitreya Rishi, saying that, Maitreya Rishi was present when Lord was giving me this knowledge, when we were having that conversation. And Maitreya Rishi is not very far from here. It's nearby. So please go see him. And after that, Uddhava left for Badrikashram and Vidura went to Haridwar, where Maitreya Rishi was living on the banks of Ganges. So I'm going to ask if anybody would like to guess why Vidura did not answer the question and why he told him to go to Maitreya Rishi. Any ideas?
Yeah, Prabhu. Uddhava was, Uddhava was younger than Vidura, and he doesn't want to instruct, that age, and that's why he wanted Maitreya Rishi to, instruct him.
Correct. Very good. Yes. So Vidura was a nephew of, Uddhava was a nephew of Vidura, therefore an inferior position. And it's called Maryada Vittikram in Sanskrit, which means not following the traditions. The tradition is the wiser, older person teaches the younger, less wise person. So Uddhava did not want to assume the position of a wiser person. So out of respect for Vidura, he said, please ask Maitreya Rishi. So that was the reason. Thank you, Radha Vinod Prabhu. Very good. Okay.
I have a question, Prabhu.
Yes, please go ahead.
Prabhu, so like in general speaking, like this is a special case with Vidura and Vidura and
Uddhava.
Sorry. But what happens like in our situation? Let's just say like if someone is coming and asking you, like your parents or your uncle and aunts, so what should you, like how should you reciprocate? Should you say the exact same thing?
Well, so again, you have to be careful. If they genuinely want to know, you can try to answer the question and direct them towards the book or towards a book or whatever. But you cannot be answering a question saying, look at me, Daddy, I know more than you do. That would be wrong, right? Or trying to teach them whether they have asked or not. That would be wrong, right? So there's a custom, there's an etiquette that we should observe.
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Like, when the Sukdev Goswami was speaking about Bhagavatam, he was speaking in front of Vyasdev and Vashishta Muni also. I mean...
Sorry, say again?
When the Sukdev Goswami was giving speaking Bhagavatam to Parishit Maharaj, he was talking in front of Vashishta Muni, Vyasdev, and so many, senior. Beyond qualification, they were all the yogis there.
Correct.
So how do we justify that then?
Yes. So basically, all of these people, I don't know if you recall when we talked about the appearance of Shukadeva Goswami, all these people who were sitting there listening to Parikshit Maharaj, they got up when Shukadeva Goswami walked in and they all offered their respects and they all said he is more qualified to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam than any one of us. So they acknowledged him to be superior in the qualification to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's with their permission and wish that he started. And also, he did Mangalacharan. which basically again asking for permission. Say, hey, like we say Om Agyan Timnandasa, that's basically asking for permission to acknowledge your lack of knowledge, and that whatever I say or do is by your mercy. So that's how we go around that.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, all right. So King Parikshit then said, I think you just told me that everybody in Vrishni dynasty, your descendants, they left their body. But Uddhava is in your dynasty also, so how come he remained? Which is a valid question. So Sridhar Goswami said that Lord Krishna felt that Uddhava, being his foremost devotee, is the only one who can be trusted with the knowledge about him. And therefore, he should stay around for a little while in order to disseminate the knowledge of of Krishna. And actually, I don't know if you remember, we were talking about the very first class of this series, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. We talked about how Uddhava narrated Srimad Bhagavatam to the wives of Lord Krishna and Vajranab and many other people. So he stayed around to give that knowledge to many people. And Krishna said, you're the only one who's qualified to do that. So you stick around and you come later. Okay? So then we moved to chapter 5, which talks about how Vidura met Maitreya Rishi. He paid him his obeisances and asked him first question, which is, how should one live for real happiness? How can one please the Supreme Lord with devotional service? And he also asked many other questions about how the Lord creates and maintains the cosmic manifestation, about his incarnations, and of course, the essence of all topics, which is the topics of Lord Krishna himself. So Maitreya Muni said that creation and annihilation of the material world happens by Krishna's will. And then he described the whole thing again about Mahavishnu and Garbhodakasha Vishnu and the whole process of creation of material world, etc. Everything that we discussed in the last class. And that was chapter 5. In chapter 6, he describes the creation of universal form with all the planetary systems and all the movable and immovable creation that exists. He also talked about how the Lord separates himself into different demigods. For example, Agni, the fire god, is separated from his mouth. Ashwini Kumaras, the two doctors, excuse me, from his nostrils. A wind god from the skin of the Lord. And so on and so forth. Brahma from his intelligence, heavenly planets from his head, earthly planets from his legs, on and on. So basically, chapter 6 talks about how how the Lord separates into different forms by different parts of his body. Chapter 7, which I think the title is Further Inquiries by Vidura, and where he asks more questions, and Maitreya Rishi answers those questions. Okay. Then he asked, same question that Parikshit Maharaj had asked, how does pure soul become engaged in nescience? How does it become ignorant? And if the Lord is really sitting there, super soul in the heart of every living entity, then why do misfortunes and miseries happen? So Maitreya said, basically same thing that we had said in the beginning of this class. There's a lot of repetition between Canto 2 and Canto 3. So again, he says, because we identify with the body, and then we start to feel the miseries of the body, and the only way to not identify with the body is through the process of devotional service and the mercy of the Lord. And he says that simply, in the age of Kali especially, simply by hearing and chanting the holy name, the miseries can disappear. And then Vidura asked many more questions about the planetary systems that we discussed already. And he talked about different kinds of human beings and other forms. And he talked about the qualitative expansions of the Lord, which we discussed, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. And he asked about Varnashram also. So he asked all these questions that Maitreya Muni will start answering in the next few chapters. And chapter 8, Maitreya Rishi starts to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam to answer some of the questions. And he goes back to the time when Sanat Kumar had asked the same kind of questions to Lord Shankarshan and then narrated to Narad Muni. And basically all the things we have talked about already, they are in the Canto 3. And he goes through the whole process of how the lotus flower was created, how the 14 planetary systems were created, and the different planetary systems being different parts of the body. It's all those things that we have discussed before. And he said that at the time of dissolution, everything becomes amalgamated in the navel of the Mahavishnu, and they manifest again at the time of creation. Okay, and talks about how Brahma developed 4 heads because he's looking in all 4 directions to figure out where he is, and his whole meeting with Gopatha Vishnu by going down the stem. He reminds him that he had tried once, he succeeded, he went back, did the penances, finally succeeded, and he met the Lord, and emphasizing the point that our endeavors can get us close to the Lord, but only by Lord's mercy can we reach the ultimate point. So again, we have discussed all these things. Okay. Any questions? If not, I would like to talk. Sorry, somebody asked something? Somebody asked a question? No? Okay, all right. So when the Lord was done, something I didn't mention before is that at the end of the discussion, the Lord says something very, very profound. Like he always says something profound, but this is like really profound. It really gets me. He said, Brahma, the prayers that you have chanted, praising the glories, or I should say, praising my glories, the glories of my activities, all the penances you have undertaken to understand me, and your firm faith in me, all these are because of my causeless mercy upon you. And I want to stop for a second. I want to make sure it sinks into everybody's consciousness. The Lord is saying that it is by my mercy that you're able to do any service. Whether you're glorifying me, you're describing me, whether you're doing any penances, whatever faith you have in me, it's all because of my mercy upon you. So think about going to the temple. Think about having an opportunity to serve Krishna. They all come by the mercy of Krishna.
Yep.
Now I'm going to apologize. I have to leave for 1 second. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I forgot to say 1 second IST. So that just means that it was a lot longer than 1 second, but I said 1 second. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, all right. So then we'll move on to chapter 10, where again, Matarishi is explaining how Brahma entered the lotus and divided into 3 divisions and 14 planetary systems, all the things that we have talked about. Okay, so it's literally a repetition of many things that we discussed already. Then something interesting that I'd like to share with you, and that is Maitreya Muni said there are 9 types of creation, 6 of which are created by the external potency of the Lord. He mentioned Mahatattva, false ego, senses, knowledge, and working capacity, controlling deities, ignorance. And then 3 are created by Brahma, which is immovable entities like trees, plants, and creepers, lower species of life, those with 2 hoofs, such as cows, goats, buffalo, those with 1 hoof, such as horse and a mule, those with 5 nails, such as a dog, a tiger, fox, cat, etc. And third is human being. So he talks about the 9 types of creations. Then he talks about 8 types of demigods. Demigods, forefathers, demons, gandharvas, apsaras, yakshas, siddhas, bhutas, pretas, superhuman beings, and celestial singers. And he talked about 3 types of annihilations. First being the death of Brahma himself, when everything is destroyed. Brahma's night, when the lower planets are destroyed, and upon the death of the material body. And then chapter 11 describes the times, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and some very small like Tuti, Nimish, and all those kind of things. And he described that 1 year of demigod is equal to 360 years of humankind, which means 1 day of demigod is equal to 1 year of on planet Earth. Okay, I've said a lot of things. I'm going to slow down and see if there's anything you want to say. Well, I really want to understand this, but you went too fast. And I know I went too fast because I don't want to repeat what we have already discussed. So anything there? Okay. All
Can
right.
I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when you said there's 8.4 million life forms, I think at the end you said there's 400,000 types of human beings.
Correct.
So what do you mean? I only know of male and female. So what do you mean by that 400,000 types?
So think different universes, think different planets, right? And I think there's also some categories of human beings on this planet, some in the forest, somewhere in the remote corners. They have some differences in terms of their development. Yeah, but it's mostly like other planets, other universes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That
Sure, no worries.
explains that, yeah.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, all right. So then he described what happens during the night of Brahma. And that's where I was discussing that, everything is finished, the lower planets, and there's no light. Everybody gets merged in Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, all the living entities, that is, and there's fire coming from Sankarshan, there's overflow of the oceans, there's hurricanes, and it's a disaster, basically. Well, it is a disaster. And then Brahma, gets further instructions from the Lord for rehabilitation of all these things, and he starts again. As I was mentioning, 14 Manus in each day of Brahma, and there's different Indra, the 7 sages in each Manu's reign.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Prabhuji, you just said that there's no light, and then you said there's fire. How can this be
No, I'm
simultaneously
sorry, I meant
that?
sunlight. No, sunlight. So fire has some light, but sunlight I meant. Sorry. Okay. I'm glad you're paying attention.
I'm not sleeping. I want to prove that.
And then he says something interesting. Like he said, Brahma lives for 100 years, but the first 50 years of Brahma are already over. And we are in the 51st year. And he said that Lord Varahadev, which demon did Lord Varahadev kill?
Who brought earth from the ocean?
Yeah, so Hiranyaksh.
Meenakshi.
Hiranyaksh, yes.
Hiranaya.
So he says in the first 50 years of Brahma, Lord Varahadev appears in white color. And the second half, he appears in black color. So this latest Lord Varahadev was in black color.
Is it red or black?
Black is what I read. Red, R-E-A-D. That's what I read. But if it's red, I'll have to check again.
Okay, sorry.
So why so?
Sorry?
Why is that different color?
I'll have to ask Lord Varahadev. Why did he change color? Huh?
I feel black and red are the same. So it's the same personality who's taking two different colors. So it's fine.
Okay, thank you. I could have read it wrong. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Like everything is basically the same. Talking about the coverings that we discussed: earth, water, air, fire, etc. The material was a diameter of 4 billion miles. And then it goes on to chapter 12, which is the creation of Kumaras and others. And then it gets to some details of in what order Brahma created things. So he talks about that first he created, and this is something I don't understand, but he says first Brahma created self-deception, then sense of death, anger, sense of false ownership. But, you can imagine, he didn't feel any pleasure from doing all this. So he purified himself again by meditation on Supreme God. And he began another term of creation. And so then the second term of creation, first he created 4 sages, popularly known as Kumaras, Sanak, Sanatan, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar. They became jnanis, just not interested in material activities. And it is them who refused to obey the order of their father Brahma to generate more progeny. And that refusal from his own children made Brahma so angry that his forehead burst, and out came a child of mixed blue and red color. Do you know who that child was?
Shiva.
Shiva, yes. So at his birth, the child began to cry and say, "Who am I? What is this place that I'm here? What is my place?" And so Brahma said, "You will be called Rudra because you have so anxiously cried. And your residence will be in the heart, the senses, and the 5 gross elements, as well as the sun, the moon, and the austerity." So then Rudra created many offsprings, exactly like him in feature, strength, and furious nature. And so one time, all these offsprings, the sons, the grandsons of Rudra, they got together and they wanted to devour the entire universe. When Brahma saw that, he became scared. And then he realized that they were chasing him. So he went to the original Rudra and said, "Please, no more generation. You don't generate any more entities of your nature. They have destroyed everything. They have even attacked me." And he said, "Please tell them to situate themselves in some kind of penance." And of course, then all the Rudras complied and they went to a forest to do that. And then came the 10 sons, Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulaste, etc., etc. And Narad, of course, the 10th son. And then religion was born from the breast of Brahma, and irreligion from the back of Brahma. The lust and desire came from his heart, anger from between eyebrows, greed from his lips, and the power of speaking from his mouth. So all this came from Brahma. But as Brahma was doing all this, he said, this is too slow. I mean, I'll be here forever doing this and not be done. So I need something more efficient, a more efficient process to increase the population. I need more efficient production machines. So he produced a male form from his left side, from his left side, and a female form from his right side. Male form was known as Swayambhu, which was no parents, and female was known as Shatrupa. So they got married and they produced two boys, Uttanpad and Priyavrat. Uttanpad was a very famous father. Who was his son? Anybody knows?
Dhruv Maharaj.
Yes, Dhruva Maharaj. And Priyavrata, and then three daughters. Akuti, who got married to sage Ruchi. Devahuti, who got married to Kardam Muni, and whose son was Kapil Dev. And Prasuti to Daksha. And one of his daughters was Sati, who got married to Lord Shiva. And they filled the world with their progeny. So I think these are the first 12 chapters. So I'm going to stop here. It's almost time. Any questions, comments? I know today was a little tedious. And once again, I debated with myself whether I should cover this or not. And then I thought for the sake of completion, I should do that, even though it might be a little too tedious for some of you. So my apologies for that.
I have a question, Prabhu.
Yes, Mother, go ahead.
Sir, Lord Brahma has 4 heads.
Brahma had 4 faces, Lord Shiva has 5. Now, this Brahma in our universe, there are Brahmas with million faces. That's different. But our Brahma has 4.
Prabhuji, I have one question.
Yes, Mataji.
I mean, I'm not able to understand because, anyways, I don't have that level also. That why Brahma ji would create all this anger and enviness and the lust and greed. I mean, is that something, to give the punishment to those who are coming to the materialistic world, or what? I mean, when he is creating himself and he wants that the population should produce and grow, and he could have given only the good qualities, right? So that everybody is in the path of bhakti.
Sure.
So why he created it?
So remember, we're talking about the bodies are created according to the karmas.
Yes, Prabhu.
Right? And that's one point. Second point is, in the spectrum of things, you have bad and you have good. Otherwise, the world will be only half.
Yeah.
Third point is that when he's starting, he's not sure what he's going to produce. So out comes these things that he doesn't like. So he says, okay, that's why he starts the second creation. And then some of the good things come. But in the material world, good and bad both have to exist. So he doesn't have a choice. Lust has to be there. Otherwise, it's Vaikuntha. Right? Irreligion has to be there. Otherwise, it's Vaikuntha. So on and so forth. So it's not much of a choice.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure.
Prabhuji, when karma is not calculated by Brahma, then how he will know that he has to put this person in this person in this? Who will guide him for that?
That's the knowledge.
Again, the Godhead?
That's the knowledge he got from Krishna, to know that he is a combination of karmas with this living entity. That's the kind of body he will get. That's the knowledge he's getting.
The Krishna will give the buckets of MMMs to Brahma and he will decide which body we have to go then.
No. It's basically saying, here's how you read the karmas and here's the type of body you give according to this karma. So it's a very efficient, fast process. It's like vaccine, COVID vaccines being, manufactured. Very fast, a line is moving in. So yeah, but that's why you need a very special person to do that. That's right. So that's why you and I cannot do that. I mean, human beings take 9 months to create one. Imagine if Brahma was doing that. How slow would that be? He's in a hurry.
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Right? Bang, 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 bang. They are coming out.
Could be. It takes a lot of time for us to understand, Prabhuji.
Yeah, but
It's
that's the
just,
whole
I
point.
think it's
You
not.
don't have to understand. Don't worry about it. You don't need to understand what process mechanism he used. You just need to know Brahma did this. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
And that's why I was debating whether I should get into these details or not. And maybe it was not a good idea. But I just thought that just for the sake of completion, I should do that.
No, at least we got to know that from where the female and male came. That's
Yes.
the most important thing, where like how the world started, we don't. I don't know
Yes.
especially.
No, I understand.
So today I got to know that from left and right of Brahma. So thank you about that, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Is there a specific reason why the right side, female body?
There's a lot of echo. And let me, hold on. Okay, unmute yourself and speak. Yes, go ahead.
Better? Can you hear me better?
No, but anyway, say it again. Hopefully I can understand what you're saying.
I think it's my computer problem.
It's okay. Go ahead and say it anyway.
No, I was just wondering, is there a specific reason why from the right side of Brahma female came and from left male came? Or is it just...
Typically speaking, woman is on the left side, man is on the right side, typically. So I don't know. Like, I don't know why, but that's how it says that that's how it happened. It doesn't really matter, you know. Yes, Aditi?
So when one came from the right and one came from the left, so are they not brother, sister? How they
Yeah,
can...
I was thinking somebody will ask that question. So it's not in the same sense. I mean, when there's only one origin, it has to come from the same personality. So that concept of brother and sister did not exist. And as you know that later on, the cousins got married to each other. Like Krishna married many of his cousins, right? So, and like Subhadra was Arjun's cousin. You know, so in those days, those kind of things were allowed. But in the beginning, it was like, no choice. What do you do?
But if you think about it, Prabhuji, then we are all children of one father anyway, right? Krishna himself. Right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say that. Exactly right. So eventually, we are all brothers and sisters. Actually, we are all sisters. We are all sisters.
Accepting, okay, all sisters, yes, in that spiritual form.
Yeah,
In
right.
that area, like I remembered my school days. Sorry, I would like to share this point. We used to do the Indian pledge in the morning before we go to class. We used to say, all Indians are my brothers and sisters excepting one, and that would be the husband or the wife. So similarly, we have to take it that way in the initial original origin, that if everybody were brothers and sisters, how will the procreation happen? So.
Right. Yeah.
Prabhu.
Yes.
I mean, actually, like this is what I know that because I asked this similar question to Sarvabhauma Prabhu when he gave class in Ahmedabad ISKCON temple, and I asked him that are the brother and sister. Then he said that they appeared from from right and left. They were not born. So because they appeared, they don't have mother and father. Hence, the Manu was even known as Swayambhuva because they don't really have mother and father. And then he said that, then he gave the example of a similar example of Prithu Maharaj and Archi Devi also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like. I
Yeah, no, so you're right. And that's basically what we're saying. The source is one, but the concept of brother and sister was not there.
And then he even said that, like, to marry, you can marry your cousins as long as they're not from the same Gotra.
Okay, all right. Yeah, but like, even that is not allowed anymore, thank God. But in those days, it was allowed.
Okay.
You're surprised. You think you can marry a cousin?
No, I mean...
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. When does the goddess Durga, does she have any part in creation, or what is her role? Because you're talking about the first human. I thought this was a really interesting chapter. doctor, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So basically, Durga is the external potency of Krishna. So she becomes in charge of the material world, like a jailer is in charge of the jail. So this jail called material world, she's the jailer or the person in charge. But she's not different from Krishna in that she's energy potency of Krishna. Under his direction is operating. So Maya Adhyakshan Prakriti Suiti Sacharacharam in Bhagavad Gita. He said, under my superintendence, Maya is working, which is Durga. Okay, Durga does appear in many different forms, but basically that's Maya.
And that was the first female then when Brahma created the last pair.
No. Maya is not created by Brahma.
No, when you said
Shatarupa. Shatarupa was the name. The first female created by Brahma was Shatarupa, who became the wife of the person who appeared from the other side by the name of Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva means no parents, appeared on his own. So, but that's the name that given was because of the qualification, and they married and they produced children.
So is Shatarupa then the first female human? Is that what you're?
Correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
That's correct. Yes.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
How about it?
Prabhuji, like when the 100 years of Brahmaji are completed, like then there is the complete annihilation. Then this process is this process is happening again. Like again, Brahmaji is he's
This is a cycle. This is a cycle. It's finished. Everybody goes into Lord Mahavishnu, and that's when he has inhaled. And whenever he feels like exhaling, the whole process starts again.
Okay, again Brahmaji is creating
everything is Brahma's created same process, then he creates same process and just keeps on going. It's been going on since time immemorial, as Prabhupada will say.
Prabhuji, is Brahma 50 or 51? What did you say the number?
50 was 51st year.
51st, okay.
Yeah. He's completed 50 already. So he still has a long time to go. About 155 trillion years to go.
Prabhuji, can I ask a question?
Only if you pay me. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Prabhuji, it's little off topic maybe, but I always get confused with this one line in Krishna book in chapter 1 where it says it's the Advent, the first chapter, and when everybody, they are telling that who all will be appearing. So they say that, I'll read the exact line. It says that they were also informed that the external potency of Vishnu, Maya, with whom all the conditioned souls are enamored, would also appear by the order of Supreme Lord just to execute his purpose. So does it mean that before that there was no Maya in the world? How do we understand that?
No. He's saying Maya would appear, just like Krishna would appear. Doesn't mean Krishna doesn't exist before.
Okay.
It's appearing,
okay.
Right? So this is the Maya that appeared, whom Kansa tried to kill, and she released herself and made the prophecy that your killer has already been born somewhere. It's that Maya.
So worldly appearance they are talking about. Otherwise, it's Maya is eternal.
Yeah, appearance means not birth. They exist, but they're appearing somewhere. Like just like the Krishna or any incarnation of Krishna. Right? They appear. They're not born, but they exist from before. So with Krishna, all his potencies exist, and external potency is one of them. So it exists. Like Krishna cannot exist without his potencies. So if Krishna is always there, then potencies are always there.
And Prabhuji, is the Durga ji, Maya and Durga Devi always there in form of Shiva's wife? Like Shiva cannot be replaced by anyone. Even Brahma, we can get, new Brahma, maybe millions of years after, but Shiva is only one, right, Prabhu? Like that, Sati is also one. I mean, Durga is also only one, right?
Okay, so let's not confuse. Both Parvati, Sati, Durga, they're all expansions or a formation of Maya. Right? So in that sense, they're non-different, and in that sense, they're always there. However, every time Lord Brahma is born, Shiva is also born.
Oh.
Right? And there's one separate Brahma and one separate Shiva in every universe. So the trillions of Shivas, the trillions of Brahmas. The origin of Lord Shiva was known as Sadashiv. And that was the glance
Yes.
that the Lord puts on material nature. Right? So that's the original. But then there are millions and trillions of Lord Shivas. But only one at a time in one universe, just like Brahma.
Okay, Prabhu. I think I had wrong understanding. I thought that Shiva is only one and nobody can be Shiva.
Well, the second part of your statement is correct. Nobody can be Shiva.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
you and I can become Brahma, but we cannot become
Yes.
Shiva.
Yes. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Prabhu, I had a question.
Bolo.
So you said that Varahadev comes in like different colors, right?
Different what? Just
Colors?
two colors. Two colors. And there was some discussion about was really 2 or 2.5. But anyway, go ahead.
So right now it says Shwet Varaha Kalpa. So that means the Varahadev is in white color?
Okay, then maybe I got the order incorrect. In one half is one color, other half is white color. So if you're reading Ishwet now, then maybe I said it wrong. The previous one was red or black, and this is white. I thought it was the other way around, but it doesn't matter. Really, it doesn't matter.
So he is actually white color, that means.
Well, if you read that, then yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Prabhuji, as you said, like this cycle, like Brahmaji is creating, this cycle is repeating like again and again. So does it mean like whatever we read in Bhagavatam, the pastimes we read in Bhagavatam, these are happening again and again, like in every, like after every, after every, when Brahma created everything, then again from Swayambhu Bhumi Satrupa, then all whatever we read in Bhagavatam, this is happening, like
Yes.
every time this happens.
Yes.
These pastimes.
Yes. So this is why it's a cycle. It keeps repeating itself. You know, like you take a wheel and just goes around and around and around. Same thing. This keeps on going. There's no beginning, there's no end. There's just cycles. So yes.
It's for all the incarnations. Like as Mataji just asked about Bhagavatam, I was wondering if the pastimes of Ramayana they'll also keep repeating like this, or?
Yes. Yes, because people forget, and there's a need to come and do this. Just like the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, people forget. And also Krishna Lila is Nitya Lila. So like not just waiting for Brahma to disappear, as you and I speaking, there's Krishna Lila happening somewhere. And basically he killed Putana in one universe, then he's killing somewhere else, some other planets. It's Nitya Lila, constantly happening. Krishna Lila, that is.
Are they exact same?
So hold on, let her finish.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Sonam?
So Prabhuji, I was just wondering that most of the pastimes, they give pleasure to the
I'm sorry, you froze. I can't hear anything.
Have I lost you guys?
No, you froze. So can you start again?
I was saying that most of the pastimes, they give pleasure to the Lord, but then there are pastimes like when Mother Sita was not there with Lord Ram, he was really not happy. Then why does he want to still repeat those things again and again?
Haven't you heard about Vipralambha Bhav? Haven't you heard that the ecstasy in Vipralamba is greater than the ecstasy of union? Right? Plus, the Lord actually, I don't agree with the statement that he does it for his pleasure. What I have read is that he does it for his devotees' pleasure. He's happy no matter what. But he's doing it for devotees' pleasure. Right? Devotees' requests, circumstances, situations, all those kind of things. So yeah, he does it again and again and again for the same reasons. Which is people forget, and he needs to do this again, so he does it. It keeps on going. Just imagine if that was not the case, and just by the way, if they decided not to do it this time, this Kali Yuga, no pastimes, this Dwapar Yuga, no pastimes, this Treta Yuga, no pastimes. Can you imagine? What will you do?
It'll be boring.
Not just boring, like it'll be horrible. There'll be no devotees.
How would we know him?
Yeah, you would know him. You don't know of him. So he says, I can't do that to Sonam, I have to come. Okay. All right, thank you. So Damodar Charan Prabhu, you were asking?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
You're welcome.
So Prabhu, I heard in one of the classes of Purushottam month, and the speaker said that every sometimes in some of the manvantars, Lord has appeared, like Hiranyakashipu has even asked that I should not be killed in any of the 12 months also. So the Lord appears in Purushottam month, like in some of the
Correct.
manvantars.
That's correct.
Now, so my point was, I wanted to confirm with you that so there is a possibility, and it does happen that the cycle might be repeated, but there might be variations also.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. Like not necessarily all the pastimes happen. Not in all pastimes. For example, Putna may be the same person in her previous life. So those variations are there.
Okay.
But the pastimes are happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure. Okay, so 9:48. Anything else? Last questions before I...
Prabhuji?
Yes, Nidhi. Nidhi Tipta.
Yeah, no problem. I was just wondering, Lord appears and his pastimes repeat, as we were just talking about it. Do Lord's representatives, Prabhupada and all those sannyasis, they also come and deliver all of us? I'm just wondering if for whatever reason we come back and do we have those opportunities, and we would have Bhagavatam still there and all that stuff.
So first of all, Bhagavatam is eternal, which means all the devotees who are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam appear, and the pastimes are happening with them. But other devotees who are not mentioned in Bhagavatam or other Puranas may not be there, maybe somebody else.
Okay.
And so it just depends. But the main ones who are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, they keep coming back.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next week, Thursday. Hopefully, that would be less tedious. and thank you for your patience. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much
Thank you so
for
Hare
much.
Krishna.
wonderful class.
Thank you very much.
So it was really wonderful, Prabhu. It was nothing that.
Thank you, Mataji. I appreciate that.
Very, very interesting.
Yes.
Thank you.
True.
Today's topic means a lot, Prabhuji, for me especially.
Yeah, that's good.
I know from where I came now.
Fabulous.
That's nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.